My name is Chloe, and just a year ago, I married Jack, the man I had always dreamed of. Our relationship was everything I could have hoped for, full of love, support, and laughter. Life felt perfect with him by my side. I worked as an accountant, mostly from home, a job I found fulfilling. But there was more to my professional life than others knew. Jack owned his own car parts business, which kept him busy, but it also gave us plenty of time together. We enjoyed spending our free time with one another, often attending gatherings with Jack's large circle of friends, colleagues, and business partners. These events were always a highlight for me, offering a chance to socialize and immerse myself in Jack's world. One sunny Saturday morning, while I was sipping coffee and checking emails at our kitchen table, Jack walked in, beaming. "Hey, beautiful," he greeted me, kissing my cheek. "Mike's having a barbecue at his place. Thought we could swing by, grab a drink, and catch up. What do you think?" "Sounds great," I replied, excited for the evening ahead. We arrived at Mike's house around 7 p.m. The scent of grilled meat and the sound of laughter filled the air as we made our way through the crowd. I noticed a striking blonde woman I hadn't seen before. She was laughing and chatting animatedly with a group of people. "Who's that?" I asked. Jack stiffened slightly but nodded toward her. "That's Vanessa, my ex." Before I could reply, Mike saw us and waved us over. "Jack, Chloe, glad you could make it. Let me introduce you to everyone." As we walked toward the group, Vanessa's eyes immediately locked on us, and her smile widened, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. Well, she purred, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "If it isn't Jack and his wife." Her tongue lingered on the word wife, making it feel off, almost like an insult. I forced a smile, trying not to let her affect me. "Nice to meet you, Vanessa," I said, extending my hand. "I'm Chloe." She glanced at my hand as if it were contaminated, then turned back to Jack. "Jackie, darling, it's been too long. You must tell me all about what you've been up to." The pet name made me bristle, but Jack smoothly intervened. "It's good to see you, Vanessa. Chloe and I have been doing well. What about you? Still working at your dad's company?" Vanessa's smile faltered. "Oh, you know me. I like to keep my options open. Unlike some people, I'm not tied down." The conversation continued, with Vanessa taking every opportunity to make veiled jabs at me while fawning over Jack. I did my best to stay calm, but by the end of the night, I was emotionally drained. Over the following weeks, Vanessa showed up more often at our social gatherings, each time making me feel more uncomfortable. One evening, at a dinner party hosted by one of Jack's business associates, I was chatting with a few of the other wives when Vanessa approached with a champagne flute in hand. "Oh, Chloe," she said sweetly but with an edge. "That's an interesting outfit. I didn't realize the librarian look was in again." I glanced down at my knee-length skirt and blouse, suddenly self-conscious. "I think it's suitable for a dinner party," I replied, trying to stay composed. Vanessa's laugh rang out, sharp and mocking. "Of course, sweetie. Not everyone can pull off haute couture like I can." I bit my tongue, resisting the urge to point out that her dress seemed more appropriate for a nightclub than a dinner party. Instead, I excused myself and went in search of Jack. As time passed, Vanessa's behavior became bolder. She started posting pictures from our gatherings on social media, always cropping me out or blocking my face. The captions were thinly veiled insults about my appearance or personality. One day, I saw a particularly hurtful post. Vanessa had uploaded a picture of herself next to an unflattering photo of me. The caption read, "Who's the better match for Jack? Vote below." I felt my face flush with anger and humiliation as I scrolled through the comments, most of which favored Vanessa. At the end of the post, she added, "Looks like the people have spoken. Jack must be blind to choose plain Jane over a beauty like me." That night, when Jack returned home from work, I decided to confront him. "Jack, we need to talk about Vanessa," I said as he walked in the door. He sighed, loosening his tie. "What's she done now?" I showed him the post on my phone. His face darkened as he scrolled through it. "This is unacceptable," he muttered. I'll talk to her and tell her to take it down. That's not enough, I said, my voice trembling. I want you to tell her to stay away from us. I don't want her at our events anymore. Jack ran a hand through his hair, looking uncomfortable. Chloe, I can't do that. She's the daughter of an important business partner. I can't just ban her from social events. So I'm supposed to tolerate her bullying me? I asked, my frustration rising. Of course not, Jack said, pulling me into a hug. I'll talk to her, let her know her behavior isn't okay. But you have to understand, I can't completely cut her off without damaging my business relationships. I pulled away, anger building inside me. And what about us, Jack? Doesn't that matter? Of course it does, he said, looking pained. You're the only one I love. The past is the past. I chose you. His words should have been comforting, but I couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning of our problems. That night, as I lay in bed, I couldn't help but wonder, was our perfect life starting to fall apart? As the weeks went by, Vanessa became more relentless. At every party, it seemed she was determined to get under my skin and closer to Jack. One night, at a cocktail party, I wore a simple black dress, feeling confident and at ease. That didn't last long. Vanessa entered the room in a tight red dress that left little to the imagination. Her eyes locked on Jack, and she made a beeline for us. Jack, darling, she said, ignoring me completely. You look dashing tonight. Before either of us could respond, she placed her hand on Jack's arm, stroking it lightly. Care to dance with me for old time's sake? I felt my blood begin to boil, but Jack quickly pulled away. Thanks, Vanessa, but I'm here with my wife. Maybe another time. As we walked away, I felt a small sense of victory, but it was short-lived. Throughout the night, I watched as Vanessa made repeated attempts to pull Jack away from me. She would call him over to talk business or ask for help with some fabricated issue. Jack rebuffed her every time, always ensuring I was included in the conversation or quickly returning to my side. But the constant attention from Vanessa was beginning to take its toll on both of us. The following weeks brought no relief, as Vanessa's efforts to undermine our relationship grew more frequent and more public. She would regularly post suggestive comments on Jack's social media, always reminding everyone of their past together. At social gatherings, she would slyly recount their time spent as a couple, deliberately leaving me out of the conversation. But it all came to a head at Tom's birthday party. Vanessa made her entrance fashionably late, in a dress that seemed more suited for a glamorous event than a casual barbecue. As she entered, she locked eyes with me and gave a smug smile. Chloe, she called out, her voice dripping with insincerity. Didn't you get the memo? This isn't a book club meeting. Laughter rippled through the group, and I could feel the heat of embarrassment rising in my face. Jack, who had been talking to some colleagues, rushed over to my side. Enough, Vanessa, he said, his voice cold and firm. You need to cut it out with these childish games. Vanessa feigned innocence, her eyes widening dramatically. Why, Jack? She asked sweetly. I'm just trying to help. Someone needs to teach your little wife how to dress for these events. Before Jack could reply, I felt something cold and wet seep down the front of my dress. I looked down, shocked to see red wine spreading across it. Vanessa stood before me, holding an empty glass, her expression feigning regret. Oh no, she exclaimed. How clumsy of me. But honestly, I think the stain is an improvement on that hideous outfit. The party fell silent, all eyes on us. Standing there, drenched in wine, I felt a mix of humiliation and fury. But as I looked at Vanessa's self-satisfied grin, something inside me snapped. You know what, Vanessa? I said, my voice calm but firm. I'd rather wear the stained dress than continue pretending to be polite to you. Your behavior is childish and embarrassing. If you'll excuse me, my husband and I are leaving. I turned to Jack, who was staring at Vanessa with a mix of disgust and disbelief. Let's go home, I said. As we walked toward the door, Vanessa's voice called out behind us. Jack, darling, don't leave. Stay, and I'll take care of you. Without turning around, Jack put his arm around me and, loud enough for everyone to hear, said, "The only person I want taking care of me is my wife. Goodbye, Vanessa." As we left the party and drove home in silence, I felt like something had shifted. Vanessa had shown her true nature, and there was no turning back now. The next morning, Jack entered our room with a serious look. "Chloe," he explained, "I have a business trip. It's important for work. I'll be gone for a week." I nodded, trying to hide the uneasy feeling in my gut. "Okay, when do you leave?" "Tomorrow morning," he replied. "Sorry for the short notice. It came up suddenly." I forced a smile. "It's fine. I know work is important." The next day, Jack left for his trip, and I found myself alone in the house. The week crawled by as I immersed myself in work to avoid the loneliness. On Friday evening, my phone rang. To my surprise, it was Vanessa. "Chloe, darling." Her voice oozed with fake sweetness. "I'm having a little gathering tonight. Just a small group of 8. Jack and you should come." I hesitated. Jack's out of town on business, actually." "What a shame," Vanessa replied, not sounding disappointed in the least. "But you should still come. It'll be a great chance for us to bury the hatchet. What do you say?" Despite every instinct telling me to decline, a part of me was curious. "I'm not sure," I said cautiously. "Oh, come on," she urged. "It's at El Chateau. You know it, right? Very exclusive. It'll be fun, I promise." At the mention of El Chateau, I couldn't help but smile. "All right," I said, making a snap decision. "I'll be there. What time?" "Wonderful," Vanessa exclaimed. 8 o'clock, don't be late." At exactly 8 o'clock, I walked into El Chateau. A cheerful group of Jack's friends were sitting at a table, 8 people, including Vanessa. For a moment, I thought maybe things would go smoothly. But as I approached, my heart sank. There was no seat for me. Vanessa stood up, her eyes glinting with malice. "Oh, Chloe," she said loudly, her voice dripping with false concern. "I'm afraid there's been a misunderstanding. You see, we're full. No room for extras." She twirled around in her designer dress. "This place is for people who belong, Chloe. Beautiful people, successful people. Maybe you should try the diner down the street. I hear they do a great hot dog." The table fell silent, everyone uncomfortably avoiding eye contact. I laughed, genuinely amused by Vanessa's pathetic attempt at humiliation. Then I turned to the staff. "Excuse me, could I speak to the manager, please?" The restaurant manager approached, looking professional and courteous. "Is there a problem here?" he asked, glancing between Vanessa and me. Before Vanessa could respond, I smiled at the manager. "No problem at all. I just wanted to see if I could join this lovely group for dinner." The manager smiled back. "Of course, madam. Let me find a comfortable chair for you." As he hurried off, Vanessa's face twisted with rage. "Excuse me," she said. "I booked this table for 8. She wasn't invited, and there's no space for her." The manager returned with a plush chair, placing it at the table. "I apologize for the confusion, but Madam is entitled to sit wherever she wishes. After all, she is the owner of El Chateau." A collective gasp echoed through the room. Vanessa stood there, her mouth opening and closing in shock, while Jack's friends looked at me in disbelief. One of them, Tom, finally spoke. "But Chloe, I thought you were an accountant. That's how Jack introduced you to us." I smiled and shrugged modestly. "I am an accountant. I handle the books for my restaurant. I've never been one to flaunt my wealth. I prefer to judge people by their character, not their bank balance." Vanessa's face turned a deep crimson, a mixture of embarrassment and rage. The atmosphere at the table shifted instantly. Jack's friends, who had been silent during Vanessa's tirade, now eagerly invited me to sit with them. "Chloe, please join us. We'd love to hear more about your restaurant." "I can't believe we didn't know this about you." I raised my hand, smiling gently. "Thank you, but I think I'll pass. I just wanted to stop by and say hello." Turning to the manager, I said, "Please make sure Jack's friends are well taken care of tonight." "The bill is on me," As I prepared to leave, I couldn't resist adding, "And Vanessa, there's a diner down the street. I hear they serve a great hot dog. You should try it sometime." With that, I left the restaurant, leaving behind a stunned silence and a thoroughly embarrassed Vanessa. When Jack returned from his business trip a few days later, I recounted the incident over dinner. "You should have seen her face, Jack," I said, laughing. "I've never seen anyone turn that shade of red." Jack shook his head, chuckling. "I can't believe she thought she could embarrass you like that. You handled it perfectly, Chloe." As we wrapped up our meal, a deep sense of satisfaction washed over me. Vanessa's attempt to make me look foolish had spectacularly backfired, ultimately bringing Jack and me closer than ever. Weeks passed after the El Chateau incident. Life had taken on a comfortable pace, and the memory of Vanessa's embarrassment had turned into a story Jack and I would occasionally chuckle about over dinner. One brisk autumn morning, as I sifted through my emails, I came across an intriguing invitation. It was for the prestigious Entrepreneur of the Year awards, specifically in the Successful Entrepreneurial Debut category. My heart raced as I read the details. It was an incredible acknowledgement of my hard work and success with the restaurant. Jack and I decided to attend together. On the night of the event, we were both dressed to impress. Jack looked dashing in his tuxedo, and I opted for an elegant, simple gown that made me feel both confident and empowered. The venue was stunning, filled with the city's most accomplished and influential people. As we mingled, I recognized several familiar faces, friends, acquaintances, and many of Jack's business partners. The energy was electric, everyone buzzing with anticipation. At one point, Jack excused himself to chat with some colleagues, leaving me by the champagne fountain. I was admiring the intricate ice sculpture when a voice hissed in my ear. "What are you doing here?" I turned to see Vanessa glaring at me, her expression filled with anger and disbelief. "I was invited," I replied calmly, holding up my invitation. Vanessa's eyes narrowed. "This event is for the elite. People like me and my father. You don't belong here. How dare you try to insert yourself into our world? Leave now before you embarrass yourself." I stayed composed, scanning the room until I spotted the people I was looking for. Smiling, I waved at two distinguished older gentlemen in sharp suits who were conversing across the room. As they made their way toward us, Vanessa continued her tirade, but I paid no attention to her, focusing on the men. When they reached us, I warmly embraced one of them. "Dad, it's so good to see you," I said, kissing his cheek. Turning to the other man, I extended my hand, which he shook firmly. "Mr. Thompson, it's a pleasure to see you again." Vanessa's face went pale as she recognized the second man. She turned to him, her voice shrill with disbelief. "Daddy, what are you doing? How can you be friendly with this nobody? She's just an accountant who got lucky, and now she's pretending to be one of us. She doesn't belong here." Mr. Thompson's face flushed with anger as he listened to his daughter's outburst. His usually calm demeanor shifted to one of fierce determination. "Enough," he bellowed, causing Vanessa to flinch. He pointed at my father. "This is William Carter, one of the most successful entrepreneurs in the country, and my valued business partner. Your ignorant words could ruin a multi-million-dollar deal." Vanessa's eyes widened in shock, but she didn't back down. Instead, she escalated her rant. "Then cancel the deal, Daddy. We don't need to do business with her family. They're beneath us." Mr. Thompson's face turned a darker shade of red as he shouted, his voice carrying throughout the room. "That's it. Your behavior is intolerable." He pointed directly at Vanessa. "From now on, you're cut off. No more allowance, no more credit cards, and that apartment you love? Consider it gone." Vanessa's mouth hung open in stunned silence as her father turned to us, his tone now apologetic. "Mr. Carter, Chloe, I sincerely apologize for this disgraceful display." He then turned to Vanessa and snapped, "Vanessa, leave. You've proven you're unworthy to be here." As Mr. Thompson walked away with my father, Vanessa was left standing alone in the middle of the ballroom, tears streaming down her face as mascara streaked her cheeks. The crowd around us slowly dispersed, leaving her isolated in her shame. The rest of the evening was a blur. When my name was called for the Successful Entrepreneurial Debut Award, I walked onto the stage in a daze. As I accepted the award, I saw my father and Jack in the audience, standing and clapping, their faces beaming with pride. Their support filled me with overwhelming joy and pride. In the weeks following the ceremony, life settled into a peaceful rhythm. The golden trophy found its place on our mantle as a quiet reminder of that night. Jack and I continued attending social gatherings with his friends and business partners, but without Vanessa's toxic presence, the atmosphere at these events was lighter, the conversations more relaxed, and the laughter more genuine. One evening, as we were preparing for another event, Jack came up behind me as I was putting on my earrings. "You know," he said, wrapping his arms around my waist, "I've noticed how much more fun these parties are now." I smiled at him in the mirror. I was just thinking the same. It's funny how one person's absence can change everything. Jack nodded thoughtfully. "By the way, have you heard anything about Vanessa lately?" I shook my head. "Not really. She seems to have disappeared. Although I did overhear Tom talking to his wife at the last party. Apparently there's a rumor that Mr. Thompson sent Vanessa away to another state. Something about not wanting her to continue embarrassing him or the family business." Jack raised an eyebrow. "Wow, that's a big move. But I'm not surprised after how she acted at the awards." I turned to adjust his tie. "It's a shame. She had everything handed to her and still didn't appreciate it or use it wisely." As we drove to the event, I reflected on how much had changed in my life over the past year. From the struggles with Vanessa to the unexpected recognition of my hard work, it had been an eventful journey. Yet, through it all, my relationship with Jack had only grown stronger. As for Vanessa, well, I genuinely hoped she would find her path in the end. Everyone deserves a chance to grow and become a better version of themselves. Perhaps a fresh start in a new place would be exactly what she needed. For now, though, I was content, swaying in Jack's arms, surrounded by friends, and grateful for the life we had built together.